The pilchards are coming, the pilchards are here. The hewer has shouted, he's let out his cheer. He's waving his branches on top of the cliff. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. Bring out the signboards from inside the store. Get down to the tide line, get down to the shore. All the blousers and signers will set the nets free and bring us back pilchards from deep in the sea. And bring us back pilchards from deep in the sea. The good master signer, the pilchards he'll find. With his lurker boat he follows behind. His men cast the nets surrounding the shore. The men they will follow him, bring in the haul. The men they will follow him, bring in the haul. Hauled up to the surface, drawn into the pails. The fish have been caught, silver head, shining tails. The salt maids are fishwives who wait on the shore. They'll salt them and stack them, take them to the store. They'll salt them and stack them, take them to the store. The pilchards are coming, the pilchards are here. The hewer has shouted, he's let out his cheer. He's waving his branches on top of the cliff. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. Bring in the fish.
There's a place I know so well, a place that's in my heart. I hold it close inside myself. It's where I end and start. It's where the cliffs rise high and sharp above the deep, cold blue, where hard slate rock meets gorse bush flowers, dark grey with yellow hue. The northwest wind that hits the coast drives waves onto the shore, pounding hard each sandy cove, churning up the seabed floor. The gulls they circle overhead, their screeches loud and sharp. Each pointed headland black and strong, the sky is vast and dark. The wind hits my face so hard as I stand on the cliff in the rain. I am alive, I feel alive, I am alive again. I am alive, I feel alive, I am alive again. And this place called home, that I know so well, will be my home again.
This place called home, that I know so well, will be my home again.
Me? What do you want me to read? Newquay, a peninsula that sits between the Gallal Estuary and the Atlantic Sea. It's just a book about Newquay. Mary Shepherd a resident who lived in Newquay from 1853 to 1943, Mary Shepherd. That's a picture of you. It's about you. You want me to tell your story to them? Okay. Once upon a time, not so long ago, there was a woman called Mary Pappin, who was born in a place called Newquay, in the ancient manor of town Blystra. When Mary was born, this place wasn't really a town, it was more like a village of 500 people by the sea. Between 1850 and 1950, Newquay changed beyond all recognition. For 90 of these 100 years, Mary Shepherd lived in the town. An ordinary woman living an ordinary life. And when Mary was born in 1853, things were very different to how they were when she died. For starters, she was a lot smaller. She was the fourth child of George and Betsy Pappin. The year before she was born, George and Betsy's third child, Mary Elizabeth, died. The second Mary, our Mary, was named after her older sister, but was not like her. Where Mary Elizabeth had been a sickly child, our Mary was strong and sturdy. Because she was born after the death of her sister, her parents were very protective of her, and her early childhood was shrouded by the shadow of her sister's death, which acted as a constant reminder of how precious life was. Mary's father, George, adored all his children, and losing Mary Elizabeth had hit him hard. The birth of our Mary had been the gift he needed to bring joy back to his life. Turned out, our Mary had rather a gift for spreading joy and saving lives. But more about that later. Mary's father was a mariner on a big schooner, but later he would become captain of his own ship, the SMC, named after his three daughters, Susan, Mary and Clementina. George taught all his children the ways of the sea, and their lives, as with everyone in Newquay back there, were intertwined with the life of the great ocean. Come on in, Mary. We're off to see the sea.
Almost as soon as I was born, my father took me left out of our house at Deer Park, down to the harbour, along Full Street, past Miss Clemens' shop.
Go on, Miss Clemens.
We took a sharp left down South Key Hill, the windy road to the harbour and to the sea. Oh, I love the sea. It was in my bones and my blood. And I knew the ebb and flow of the tide like I knew the in and out of my own breath.
A sailor went to sea, to see what he could see. But all that he could see was the bottom of the deep blue sea. When Mary was little, George would often take her to see Grampy George, who lived on the other side of the village. Come on then, Mary, let's go see Grampy.
My father took me left out of our house at Deer Park, down to the harbour, along 4th Street, past Miss Clemens' shop.
Hello, Miss Clemens.
We took a sharp left down South Key Hill, the windy road to the harbour and to the sea.
A sailor went to sea, to see what he could see. But all that he could see was the bottom of the deep blue sea. Oh, Lord, Mary, you can get it big, ain't you? When Mary was growing, Newquay was growing too. But when Mary was 7, something very exciting happened. Newquay got its very first lifeboat, which would be named the Joshua. Mary, along with her brothers and sisters and scores of other people, would line up to watch the Joshua coming down the road from St. Columb Minor. Henry, where are you then, lad? Henry, come on, that's it. Here we go. Susan, where are you? Mary, come along. Little John. That's it. Come on, you stand in line. It's coming. Oh, baby George.
Everyone who was anyone was there that night. There was Mrs. Salmon, Newquay's first postmistress. There was Mr. Mitchell, the chemist who lived on Church Lane. Grampy George was there. He was a character. Oh, and there was the most important person of them all. Mrs. Honor Potter. Now, she was a woman who owned a sweet shop. The night the lifeboat came to town, we listened for wheels on the tracks. Well, it was dark, and it was hard to see, but soon enough, the excited words, "She's coming," was being passed down the line of expectant onlookers. She's coming.
She's coming. Oh, she's coming.
She's coming.
She's coming. She's coming.
You must think us as mad as hatters for getting so excited, but you've got to understand that back then, everyone in Newquay was completely linked to the sea. You were either working at sea, working alongside the sea, or what was related to someone who was. And the sea was a dangerous place, especially if you couldn't swim, and hardly any of us could. So a new lifeboat to the town was a godsend. Oh, I remember when young Mrs. Willie Mitchell, wife of the squire, launched it. Oh, it was a sight to behold. She stepped up to the boat and said, ever so reverently, "I name you Joshua. And when you go forth onto the mighty waters, may you, like Joshua of old, and as your name implies, be the saviour of men. Launch the boat!"
Hooray!
Well, 3 years later, when I was 10, something else extraordinary happened. It was a golden year for the people of Newquay. The pilchards came to town.
Well, didn't the pilchards come every year?
Well, yes, but this year was different because in 1863, Newquay had its biggest pilchard catch ever.
In 1863, between July and almost to the end of the year, the people of Newquay caught 45 tons of pilchards. It was the best catch Newquay had ever seen. 45 tons. Well, that's like the weight of 500 burly men. A few. In the 19th century, these shy fish came so close to the shore that the men of Newquay could catch tens of thousands of them if they worked together. Now, using the same boats and nets, they hauled the fish out of the sea and brought them to shore in baskets. Now, some of the most important men involved in the catch were called the hewers. Now, they were in a hewer hut on top of the cliff, surveying the sea with their eagle eyes, looking out for signs of the pilchard shoal. Now, they were looking for seabirds circling above, dark shadows shimmering around underneath the surface of the water, and dolphins jumping in and out of the sea. These were the signs that the pilchards had arrived. And once they knew for sure, the hewers would shout down their hewer horns, which would be heard all the way over town, and people would come rushing and working busily at their tasks. They shouted down their horns.
Oh yeah, a big horn like a trumpet. It was so loud everyone could hear it all across Newquay. And when they shouted, people came from far and wide to bring in the fish.
and salt made, salted and stacked them and put them back in barrels. There are 11 fish cellars back then, each one in use at different times. They must have made loads of money in 1863. 45 tons of pilchards. And over the next few years, Mary grew from a child to a woman. Newquay was growing too. In 1868, when Mary was 15, there was 1,000 people living in the village. The population had doubled in size since she was born. To see what equals CCC.
Stop.
But what equals CCC.
Stop.
Put up on what equals CCC.
Oh, Dad, stop, you're embarrassing me. Oh, quick, it's Bob, quick, it's coming. Quick, I don't want him to see you. Oh, yeah, hello, Bob. Yeah, 'tis lovely day we're having. Oh, be a bye then, bye.
You ashamed to be seen with me, eh?
Sorry, Dad.
Oh, Mary, you're grown up. I remember when you was as small as a rabbit in the arm.
Dad.
You promised me you never change. You always stay as strong as you are and always follow your heart no matter what happens. One day I won't be here to protect you.
Dad.
I'm serious, Mary. When we lost Mary Elizabeth, I thought I'd never get over it. Then you were born and you brought me out of my darkness and into the light. You have light in your heart. With which you spread joy wherever you tread.
You're talking rubbish, Dad.
You, as I was saying, as our witness, you have got a gift for life, my girl. Now you promise me you'll always follow your heart and be strong no matter what happens. You promise? Good. Well, let's go home to Mother. I'm off to sea tomorrow. You can tell me who this Bob is if you're...
Dad, sleep.
A few weeks later, the Papin family received a letter all the way from London.
Dear Mrs. Papin, I'm sorry to inform you that your husband, Captain George Papin of the schooner SMC, has died suddenly of a heart attack while on his boat on the River Thames. Our most sincere condolences to you and your family.
Father's death hit Mary hard. It was the first person that was close to her that had died. Every road in Newquay, every nook and every cranny reminded her of him and what he taught her. She'd made a promise to her dad and she intended on keeping it.
To be strong and always follow my heart. I'll do it for you, Dad.
At 15, she was old enough to get a job, so she trained to be a child's nurse. And in 1871, she got a position working at the vicarage house in Ford. Before, it wasn't the same as Newquay, he didn't have the same faces or places. And she missed her family and friends. She was making her way in the world. Soon, something came to Ford that would make her almost completely forget that Newquay ever existed at all. And that came in the shape of a tall, dark, handsome mariner named William Pollard.
all right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
I think I broke my head.
Oh,
Well, at least you saved your pasty there.
oh, don't say it like that. It sounds awful. I was just trying to get away from that gull. Oh, look, here's that.
Thank you very much. Hello. My name is William. William Pollard.
My name's Mary. Mary Pappen.
Pleased to meet you, Mary Pappy. Well, it doesn't take a genius to work out what happens next. After they spoke for a while, they realised that they were compatible. Very compatible indeed. And in 1874, they got married in Foy, when Mary was 21. And William was a mariner like a father, and would be at sea for weeks and months on end. So Mary moved back to Newquay. Newquay Harbour at the time up to 12 tall ships, using it at any one time, exporting iron ore from the Perrin district, or China clay from St Austell, and bringing in expensive products all the way into Cornish. Over the next 6 years, Mary was kept busy, very busy expanding. And Newquay was expanding too. The year Mary returned in 1874 was also the year the viaduct was rebuilt in Newquay, making way for the steam trains. And soon, steam trains would come to Newquay for the first time. In 1875, Mary had her first child, a daughter named Elizabeth Ann. She looks like her father.
Looks like me brother, Henry.
In 1876, the first passenger train came to Newquay. Well, crowds of people gathered around the new station to look at the marvellous sight. It was a defining moment in Newquay's history. And then, in 1878, Mary had her second daughter. She was called Edith Mary. Oh, she looks like her father.
Looks like Nana Betsy.
In 1879, the Great Western Hotel was completed to accommodate all the new visitors coming to Newquay. This small town was now on the map and open for business. And in 1880, Mary had her third daughter. She was called Mildred. She looks like her father.
Looks like... Oh no, actually, she does look like her father.
Now Mary loved her girls, and she taught them all the ways of the sea, just like her father had taught her.
But all that he could see was the bottom of
Now, my beautiful maid, I'll see you and the girls before the next full moon.
William, I hate it when you have to go. I'll pray to keep you safe.
Well, it is the life of a sailor, my dear.
It is time to go down. Hold away your anger. Hold away your anger. 'Tis our sailing time. Get some when the day is over, all away from heaven, all away from heaven, 'tis our sailing time. It is time to go now. All away your anger, all away your anger, 'tis our sailing time.
In 1880, William drowned at sea off the coast of Whitby.
At the age of only 28, she's lost her husband as well as her father. And her brother Henry, he drowned at sea that year too. But she had 3 daughters to bring up. So she did what most people did back then. She just put her head down and got on with the job of living. Mary kept her promise to her father. Though inside, her heart felt broken. After William's death, Mary grabbed hold of the only thing she could to keep her afloat, and that was her daughters. As Mary got on and survived, in 1882, the Chamber of Commerce officially named this North Cornwall town Newquay, and Newquay was born. But for Mary, there was more sadness to come when her third daughter, Mildred, died of a fever.
Rest in peace, little Millie. Oh, Father. You said I had a light in my heart. You said I had the gift of life. When all around me is death. There's no light in me anymore. Father.
In 1883, Mary got married again to her lodger, Thomas Shepherd, a harness and saddle maker. It was hard letting go of the past, but she wanted her 2 girls to have the best life they could, and they needed a father. With every year that passed, the darkness in her heart faded, and the light grew a little bit stronger. And over the next 20 years, she had 8 small children. 6 girls and 2 boys.
Clementina, come on. That's it. Alice, Mildred, Mabel, Florence, Arthur, Thomas, little Beatrice.
By 1890, the population of the town was about 2,000, and grand hotels were being built all over the town. There was the Atlantic Hotel, the Victoria Hotel, the Headland Hotel, all ready to accommodate all these visitors coming to Newquay.
Here, listen, I remember the Headland Hotel riots of 1897. People threw eggs at Sylvanus Travail, the architect. I know, well, they didn't want it to be built, you see. The fishermen used to dry their nets up on that headland, but they built it anyway. Now, I found 'tis always the people with the power that to get their way.
The railways come to town meant that the big ships weren't needed anymore. And all the valuable products, once transported by sea, were now moved by rail. Mary was back at Deer Park in her family home.
Come on!
It was a house full of life, with people always coming and going to and fro and this, that, and the other. Mary loved the hustle and bustle of a large family in a full house.
Lauren, good job, really, because it was always a full house and it was always noisy. Right, come on, off to bed. Off to bed with you.
In 1898, Mary had her last child. She was done with the childbearing years. But then came the grandchildren. 27 of them.
27.
And over the next few decades, Newquay was affected by the same issues that affected other villages and towns all the way across the country. The big one, the Great War in 1914. All the young Newquay men all volunteered to join up to the war, but many never returned. But while the war was raging on in distant lands, something happened in Newquay too. Something that shook the community to its very core. On December the 16th, 1917, a great storm rose up and hit the Newquay coast with such force that the residents would talk about it for years to come.
I remember it like it was yesterday. It was the worst storm the town had ever seen. The wind rattled the windows and doors of every house, and the waves tore into the cliffs and coves with such force, we thought that the land was going to dissolve into the sea. Everyone was inside that night. Everyone. Then we heard it. Sound of the flare going up. Oh, our hearts missed a beat because we knew that our lifeboat crew would be called up to answer the cry for help. It was the crew of the SS Austin that had let off the flare. Their engines had failed. It was a Danish cargo ship carrying vital war supplies. Now our lifeboat crew of the James Stephens No. 5 met to discuss whether to launch the boat. And the coxswain, a man named Delbridge, he said it wasn't safe enough and he didn't give his consent. But the old coxswain, a man named Jamie Gill, brave and fearless man, well, he said,
I'll take out the boat on the volunteer crew! Who's with me?
13 brave men swallowed back their fear and raised their arms, their destinies in their own hands. My nephew, James Packen, was among them. How scared we all were when we'd heard that the lifeboat was going to be launched. We all went down to the cliffs at Little Fistral to see our boys and to pray for them. Oh, I whispered to myself as the rain hit my face, oh Lord, please, keep our boys safe. Bring them back to us. I closed my eyes and I began to pray. under the waves. I knew her fear. I felt that fear too. While my heart burned to see the terror in her eyes, to hear her crying, "No, our boys will not die today!" And then something in me just took over. A force so strong it jolted me into action. Suddenly I was taking control, ordering people to get ropes, sending boys and men down to rescue the trapped crew. No one will die today, no one!
What happened? The Newquay lifeboat disaster in 1917. The men launched a volunteer crew under Jamie Gill. James Clemens was hit on the head and suffered headaches for the rest of his life. No one died.
No one died.
No one?
Not one man.
And after that night, no one ever died on Mary's watch again. She made sure of it. She was a life giver, just as her father had taught her. As a midwife, in the town she delivered hundreds of babies. Some of them owed their very lives to her. One such baby, a boy called Richard Clemens, who was premature by too many weeks to be healthy. So the doctor laid him on some sheets in the corner to die. Well, that was the way they did back then. Mary, she was a midwife on duty, and she picked him up and held him tight in her arms.
You are a strong boy. You are strong, and you will not die today. You will survive.
She nursed that boy back to full health. And he only passed away this year, aged 96. An upstanding member of the Newquay community. Many people of Newquay have stories of Mary saving lives in this way. In 1943, when Mary was 90, she already had many great grandchildren.
Come along then. Come on. Let's go down to the sea. That's it. Come on then, go down to the sea. Lovely. There we go. Sit yourself, sit right down at the front there. Go on, down your legs off the cliff. Yeah. Lovely. That's the way you go all the way over there. Lovely. Now, when I was a little girl, my father took me, left out of our house at Deer Park, now Sydney Road, down to the harbour, along 4th Street, past Mrs. Clemens' shop, which is now where the houses are now. We took a sharp left down South Key Hill, the winding road to the harbour and to the sea. And you know, he used to sing me every time. Here, you might know it. A sailor went to sea, to see what he could see. But all that he could see was the bottom of the deep blue sea. Oh, you've come for me. I thought you'd never come.
And so, the woman who had given life to so many, her own children, her grandchildren, and children all over the world, or mostly women, she left this world. A final word or a mystery. Who had come to meet her at the end? Some say it was the Father George. Some say it was the children who died as babies to take their mother back home. We will never know. One thing's for sure. Mary Shepherd was no ordinary woman with no ordinary life. So then perhaps none of us are. Come on, my beautiful mate.
It is time to go now. Pull away your anger. Pull away your
The pilchards are coming, the pilchards are here. The ewer has shouted, he's let out his cheer. He's waving his branches on top of the cliff. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. Bring out the signboards from inside the store. Get down to the tide line, get down to the shore. All the blousers and signers will set the nets free and bring us back pilchards from deep in the sea. And bring us back pilchards from deep in the sea. The good master signer, the pilchards he'll find. With his lurker boat he follows behind. His men cast the net surrounding the shore. The men they will follow him, bring in the haul. The men they will follow him, bring in the haul. Hauled up to the surface, drawn into the pails. The fish have been caught, silver head, shining tails. The salt maids our fish wives who wait on the shore. They'll salt them and stack them, take them to the store. They'll salt them and stack them, take them to the store. The pilchards are coming, the pilchards are here. The ewer has shouted, he's let out his cheer. He's waving his branches on top of the cliff. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. We all must respond now and bring in the fish. Bring in